Hello, my fellow humans, and welcome to the Multiverse Leadership Podcast. What's one health habit you've tried to change recently, and what's made it easy or challenging for you? Today, we welcome Dr. Frederick Navarro, founder and CEO of Health Patterns. With a PhD in health psychology and 30 plus years of research, he has decoded the science behind adult health behavior, work used by insurers, hospitals, coaches globally. Pioneering Health Patterns Report helps coaches instantly understand clients' strengths, barriers, and motivations to personalize support. Dr. Frederick, welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you very much.
We're really glad to have you. It's been a while coming. Glad you're able to come on here.
Yes.
So to start us off today, we'd love to tell the audience a little bit about your journey and then how you ended up with Health Patterns.
Okay. It started with my master's thesis in psychological research. I was looking for a good topic, to do to finish off my whole education. I was always interested in studies that looked at applying this technique called cluster analysis to multiple measures of behavior. And what this cluster analysis would do is group people together based on all the measures that they have. So not just one dimension or two dimensions, but multiple ones based on behavior or what they describe their behavior as being. And it could be attitudes or beliefs, whatever, but in my case, it was behaviors. A lot of these cluster analysis programs, when they're applied to health behavior, would find a set of patterns, but the number of them changed depending on where it was and the size of the sample and the number of dimensions they measured. So if you measured 5 dimensions, you usually got 4 patterns. It was always like one pattern less than the number of dimensions you measure, which was very interesting. And there was always one pattern among those, whatever they found. If they had an exercise question in it, there was only one pattern that exercised. All the rest did not, especially at competitive levels and competitive sports levels and being really vigorously active. All these studies, there was always one pattern that had high levels of exercise. So my thesis was, I wanted to see if are the patterns the same everywhere, or are they different from region to region? In other words, is every place like New York and Chicago, do they have their own unique patterns, or are there the same patterns that are found everywhere? So that's what my thesis was, to test. And I did a study that allowed me to look at 10 different areas, applying the same cluster analysis technique to look at multiple behaviors, but I had 11 dimensions to look at, so many more dimensions. And when I clustered each individual place separately, I validated there were clusters of people, groups of people in each one of those 10 areas that followed like patterns. And they varied in number between 11 and 8 in each of the different areas. So then at the final step, I compared all the clusters in each one of the 10 areas to see were there any that matched. And there were 9. 9 of them matched. They were found everywhere. And there was a group of people that fell into one group that didn't have a pattern, but I didn't understand, but they just didn't fall into a pattern that could be validated. So that's where it started. I got my master's degree, and part of when I got the process, when I got the whole thing done, I was working for a marketing research company, and they helped me do a lot of the research, a lot of the phone calling and asking the questions. It was like a sample of 2,000 people. So I had to do 200 interviews in each of the 10 areas. So when I finished it all, they said, can we sell this? Can we sell it and apply it in different areas in marketing research studies? And I said, we can try. So I developed an algorithm that allowed me to find the patterns in any sample we measured, as long as we asked the same questions. Sure enough, the first set was to a hospital system in Northern California, and they applied it in their study, and they added extra money to the study to get it done, to have these clustering patterns in it. And it showed a set of behaviors that were applied in that area. And we just kept doing it. And over the course of the next year and a half, we did it with 10 different hospital systems across the country and kept finding the same patterns. What was good about that was now that I had data from multiple areas to look at, and I could look at things like how they related to age, to sex, to income, to education, to different diseases we were measuring as a part of the hospital studies. And I kept finding the same trends. Like the same patterns always had the high health status or low health status. The same patterns had the most numbers of chronic conditions they would mention versus those that have fewer chronic conditions. So from area to area, the same results kept appearing. So I didn't know why the patterns existed, but I knew they were there. And as I did more and more studies, I found that things like marital status were different across the studies, but the patterns. Having children was different across the patterns. There were age differences across the patterns that were consistent from area to area. Now, the questions that I asked had nothing to do with age. They had nothing to do with sex. They had nothing to do with children. But when you ask those questions in addition to the behavior questions I would ask, you get the same results. You get the same trends across the patterns, which is really interesting. That, why do 3 of the patterns have more females than other ones do? Why do 2 of the patterns have older age than other ones do? There were 3 patterns that had more kids, always. So that helped me know that the patterns are real. They're there, they're everywhere. And over the course of 30 years of doing this, I've done some surveys with over 250,000 people, with health plans, with major health plans, where you look at objective claims data and see who goes to the doctor more often, who uses more pharmacy, who has more hospital claims. And the same groups that, with dependent claims, the same groups that had high rates of kids have the highest rates of dependent claims. The same groups that are the most married, have the highest marital status, have the most spousal claims as part of their usage of health insurance. So the same trends kept happening, not just with self-reported, where they tell you, but by the objective measures of actual dollar values. And I also found that the patterns that have the most demand for healthcare are the ones that have the highest claims in the sample. And it was like a lot of money for 1,000 people with pattern number 7. Let's call it pattern number 7. 1,000 people of those people that pattern have $1.2 million more medical claims than everybody else does.
What is
a
about
lot of money.
pattern 7?
Yes. Well, let me get to that, okay?
Yeah.
But remember, I'll say the name pattern 7 and we'll call it the healthcare driven. Okay, they're healthcare driven. That's the name. Okay, so that's where it started. That's where it started, and that's where the journey has taken me. And I didn't know at the time when I did my master's thesis that it would become my focus in life. It would become my research goal to understand these patterns and really fully understand what they are, how they affect health, and why they're important to us today.
That is powerful and beautiful. And that's like gold right there. You found a gold mine, because that kind of information is so invaluable. Like, you can do so much with that, especially
Yes.
companies having that information. You can do good or bad, because that's very valuable.
Yes. Well, I mean, think of this. Because there are some patterns which have low claims, the health plans wanted to target those and attract higher rates of people with low claims. The hospitals were the opposite. They wanted to attract people with high claims
That makes
because
sense.
they want visits. They want to sell farm. They want doctor's visits. They want to have people come to the hospital and stay. And I did find that by understanding the behavioral patterns and the things that were important to people in these patterns, if you use advertising, you can target them based on their behavioral pattern and include messaging and some visuals, because there are relationships to gender and age, that kind of thing. And tailor messaging so that when a person sees it, people with that pattern will be attracted to the ad more. They will recognize it more, be aware of it more, like the service it's promoting more, by tailoring the communication and what you're saying to the benefits these people want. And the impact was big. I mean, in the study I did with a big hospital system, there was like a 17% increase in the number of people who were aware of the ad, who had seen it in the pattern they were targeting. Not everybody else, just the pattern they were targeting. Other people would say, I didn't see it. Just the one they were targeting had a 17% increase. Now that's for advertising, that's huge.
That's scary too.
Most lifts you get is like 4 to 5% if you're lucky. So this was a big impact. And so I proved that if you say the right things to people based on what they prioritize in their life around health and behavior, you can get them to pay attention more. And that sparked the whole journey then, moving into the health patterns. Having coaches understand the behavioral pattern of the person you're talking to and being able to customize the way they talk to them and tailor it so that person really feels heard they really feel understood.
That takes human connection to a whole different level.
Yes, yes. It's kind of like I see my report that I generate as this health patterns report as like the first step of active listening. So that when the coach, and it's easy to do, it doesn't take long to take. It's like a 4-minute questionnaire, and you take it online. I can deliver it to you on the chat. If we were trying to send you a link, you could fill it out right now, and I would get your report right on the spot. It goes fast, and then the coach can use that to now talk to this new prospect who they're trying to learn about what their goals are, what their health goals are. By seeing the pattern they belong to, they know now a lot more about them. They know about health problems they might have. They know how much they're going to go to the doctor. How much will doctors interfere with our coaching sessions? How much will other issues that they have? What are their weak points? What are their strong points? What should I focus on to maximize their engagement and steer away from, because I know it's going to turn them off? That's the value of knowing the patterns.
That like takes AI to a whole new level, and there's not even any AI involved in this.
No, it isn't. No,
that's phenomenal.
No, there's no way. At some point there will be, but I don't think I'm going to live long enough to see it happen.
You do so you can be like, whoa, look what's happened.
I'm trying to communicate something to people that they can't see. That something that's very important, which they don't know is there. And I'll tell you, I'm not putting myself in any kind of category or claiming anything, but I know that people who have worked on stuff like I've worked on, it takes a long time for people to learn about it and to start really reacting to it. When germs were first discovered by researchers, it took doctors 20 years to start washing their hands before surgery.
Ooh, I remember that.
Yes, a long time. When Galileo first discovered tracking the planets and find out that a heliocentric version of the universe, the solar system, is better than a Earth-centered one, a sun-centered one is better than a Earth-centered one, okay, he couldn't talk about it because the church threatened to kill him at the time. It wasn't until after he died that people discovered his catalogs of work and his theories and tested and said, he was right. He was right. But he was dead and gone.
Poor guy.
So I suspect that the work that I've done over the past 30 years will be discovered and appreciated years after I'm gone. It won't be while I'm alive.
I feel like, though, that's already appreciated right now because that work that you've done is so powerful and it can be used in so many ways, good and bad. Like you were saying earlier, how you can really understand and connect with someone on such a profound level. Like people usually don't go past the surface, but to be able to ask them a few questions and kind of see where they are and then target what you're trying to get across to them in the way they really understand it. It's almost diabolical, but like it makes sense.
Yeah, it is. It could be used like the dark side of the force. It could be used for evil purposes, but no, I mean, I guess anything can, anything can. What I would say is what's interesting about the patterns beyond this application of coaching, it explains a lot of outcomes in society that we're not aware of. And I'll give you an example. In education, you look at going to college, there are two of these patterns that are health behavior related, okay? But there's two of these patterns that do the best in college. They have the highest rates of graduation, the highest rates of moving on to a master's program and graduate work and postdoctoral work, things like that. Two of the patterns, all the rest don't do well. They get maybe some college, but then they kind of fade and they just kind of drop out. Why would that be? And I think it has to do with what I want to call is friendly environments. It's the nature of as a suitable, friendly environment. Okay, we're all create our life to adapt to our situation as well as we can, to be where we are, and as much as we can optimize what happens to us and minimize pain. So we want to go through life with the most benefit as possible with the least amount of pain. We all seek that. We all want pleasure and avoid pain. Okay, so the environment has a lot to do with that. And there are some environments where some people with different patterns do better than others because their pattern fits the environment better. The environment has been adjusted to fit the pattern that is the most rewarding to it. That's what systems do. Systems adapt to get the most reward. So I'm going to give you the educational example first.
Yes.
In higher education, two patterns do the best. All the rest do not. So this environment, the higher educational environment, has tailored itself to satisfy the needs of these two patterns better than every other pattern.
That doesn't seem right.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. There's something about, and I'll give you a second example. In the hospital system, when you look at patient satisfaction levels, the patients that are the most satisfied all the time is the healthcare-driven pattern. Okay, now why would they be more satisfied than every other pattern? Because they generate the most money for the system. They generate the most reward for doctors, the most reward for hospitals, because they generate more money and claims per person. And somehow, unconsciously, the healthcare system in the United States has adapted itself to best meet the needs of people who are healthcare driven. That's why they're the most satisfied, because the system knows we got to keep our prime customers the happiest, right? That's what businesses do. Businesses work to satisfy their best customers. They can't please everybody, so they focus on where the best money is for them. The healthcare system is no different, and neither is the educational system.
I feel like
Neither
there's
one.
three different systems. They're doing kind of three different things. Like one's kind of matters more than the other one. Like example, the healthcare. Like even though they're using these patterns to drive their bottom line, but at the same time, shouldn't they be taking care of everyone? Because that's people's overall health.
Yes, they should, and that's the problem that's not recognized right now. Because I see that I'll focus on the healthcare one.
Okay.
With the healthcare system in the United States, because it's been tailored to the healthcare-driven pattern, then other patients have a hard time. They don't get as well a care. The doctors won't spend the same amount of time with them because the doctors somehow know who they can just tell what to do, and they will do it. I'll tell you, there's another pattern very much like the healthcare-driven one. And the healthcare-driven is like 70% female. And they're older, like 50 and older. Another pattern is one I call the naturalist. And they are also older, but not as many, but like 60% female, not 70%. But they're older. Other demographically, they look the same as the healthcare-driven. Older females, pretty well off, educated. But the naturalist pattern has women in it and people in it, not women, who distrust healthcare. They really distrust it a lot. And they prefer homeopathy. They prefer natural remedies. They prefer energy work.
I feel
They prefer, non-traditional therapies. And in working with health coaches, and I've given many health coaches my assessment, many of them are naturalists. Many of these health coaches who especially deal with health and wellness issues are naturalists. And so that they're one pattern, and as much as people try to say, I can step out and I can really listen to my customer, unless you get out of your own head and recognize your own biases, who you are, you're going to see in everybody else.
I
And that's
that.
Right. And that's one of the things the Health Patterns Report helps coaches do, is get out of their head, recognize that there are different people with different patterns of behavior. You have one, the coach has their own, but that's not everybody. And I'll tell you, this also applies to the second group that I want to talk about, called the independently healthy. These are people who exercise. These are people who are very physically active. They have the highest health status of anybody throughout their lives. Been into aging, seniors over the age of 60 and 75, of which I'm in the group. Seniors who are independently healthy have the longest active life expectancy of anybody. And because seniors who are 60 and older, 60% of them still engage in active physical activity. After you get to 75, 60% still engage in high levels of vigorous physical activity. They're the only pattern that has that many people.
They say
Seniors.
that's so healthy to do too. Why is everyone else following that?
Well,
they live longer, they're happier. That pattern
yes,
makes sense.
Yes. But also, so that there's a lot of work trying to improve the activity levels of seniors because it shows it's better for them. Okay, a lot of improvement, but the thing is, you can't just improve their physical activity. They have to adopt the independently healthy pattern. There's more to it because the pattern they have right now is holding them in place. Remember, it's like a rubber band. You can only stretch it so much, then it's got to go back.
So they can change their patterns, or is that almost impossible for someone?
No, well, here's my problem right now. Because I'm just beginning in the health coaching space, I don't know yet. I know that patterns can change by a person's behavior and what they do.
Yeah.
I know that a person can change the pattern they have, but it's by accident because they don't know they have the pattern in the first place. But I'll give you an example. I worked with a guy who was around my age, He was always very physically active. He was really into ice hockey. He was like a goalie, really physically fit, fast reflexes, very athletic. As he got older, after at around 52 years old, he got an injury playing, and he couldn't play anymore. He had to give it up. Okay, he started to go to the doctor to get treatment for his knee, which got messed up. In the process of going to the doctor for the knees, he started seeing more specialists, and they did more testing and found out other problems that he had, right? More problems identified. So he started seeing more therapists and more specialists. He got on more medications to treat these different conditions, okay? He was independently healthy, and he became healthcare driven over the course of a year. The next time I saw him, he had gained 30 pounds. He was no longer physically active. You could tell in his physique he was different.
That's scary.
Okay? He became, and the thing is that the healthcare-driven pattern and the independently healthy one are very similar. They're very, very similar across many dimensions except for two. One is care-seeking. The other one is the level of physical activity. Because he upped his care-seeking and dropped his physical activity over the course of a year, he became what a healthcare-driven person looks like.
That's scary.
Yes. And he even told me, because he helped me actually sell it for many, many years. A great guy. He helped me sell the program in market research studies for over many, many years. And he heard me talking about it all the time, but he never internalized it. It wasn't until when I saw him again after that year later, he said, Fred, I think I'm healthcare driven now. I think I'm not independently healthy anymore because I'm not exercising anymore. I go to the doctor for everything now, and I'm on medications, and I realized I switched and I didn't recognize it. So this person who knew his pattern but didn't really internalize it, when he got injured, he didn't adopt a new form of physical activity to compensate for his no longer playing in ice hockey.
I feel a lot of people do that, actually. They get injured. They're like, oh, I can't do anything the rest of my life. I'm stuck.
Yes. And it's not true. You can adopt a new form of physical activity that's vigorous, that won't keep your injury strong, or keep injuring you in the same way. There's ways to do it. You just have to do it. You have to try it. And
I wonder what the psychological thing is in our human minds, and the capacity that we have to understand that we can keep going and try and don't have to just stop, and then you become healthcare driven. I don't understand what that is inside of us.
It's I don't know either.
Yeah.
I know that the patterns emerge. It's an interaction between a person's own preferences, what they like and dislike, and then the limits of the environment that they have to deal with, how they have to address different things. So the environment's a hard, reality. You have to navigate around that. So you can want certain things, but you still have to deal with what is.
Well, they always say that your environment will create you, who you hang around, what's in your environment, that will kind of create and bring you up to where that environment wants you to be. You got to be careful about who you hang out around with and what environments you're in.
Yes. And that is true. But again, a person can change who they hang out with. It's a choice.
Yeah.
Right? You still have control over what you expose yourself to and how you do it. For example, I'll give you the independent health example.
Please.
Independent healthy people will always find where their gym is. They know where their local gym is, and they go there. They work out, right? They know where the tennis courts are. They know where and they go and they play. They know where the places are to be physically, vigorously active and engage in competition and things like that, where the basketball courts are. They're out there playing. A person who's got other patterns won't know. They'll go, well, it's over there somewhere. And
Right.
they don't. So an independently healthy person will know where the gym is and go to it versus just driving by and seeing the sign, 24-hour fitness. Oh, that's right over there somewhere, but I never gone there. So you can pick what you expose yourself to based on your own preferences. Again, it's your own what you want, what you like and dislike. So the patterns are the interaction of those things, your environment and your own likes and dislikes. And generally people try to seek things which optimize their pleasure and benefits and minimize their pain.
Like feeds into their story they're telling themselves.
Yes. And the patterns are part of that. So if you think about likes and dislikes, it begins in your limbic system.
Like you're talking to me right now. I feel this hard.
Yes, it is brain, because your limbic system is where your affective emotions are, where you see pleasure and pain. Even the frontal part of right up below your eye, this ventral medial cortex, whatever, I'm not in the right area, but this right above your eyes right here is constantly scanning the environment for reward. That part of your brain is scanning the environment for what's good for you and what's not. Looking for what's good for me here versus not. So your brain's always doing that. Your how you speak to yourself, the language you use for yourself, describe yourself. Okay, that's captured in your language centers, but also in two other areas very important in your body. In the premotor cortex, it's a language processing center because you use language to understand what you're doing. When you execute an action like picking up a cup, is it a coffee cup or is it a cup of wine? You use language to discriminate between those things. And that's why, and also in this area that controls habit, in your lower part of your brain, they call it the lizard brain, but it's a lower part of your brain that's called the basal ganglia. That's where habits are formed. That's where they sit. And those habits also process language. The same basal ganglia process language. And here's how you know, because for me to speak intelligently, I got to manipulate my mouth and my tongue in just the right way to execute just the right sound to make the word the or place or whatever it is.
I definitely take that for granted.
Yes, and we just do it. All those habits are stored in our basal ganglia, all of them. This is why my assessment, my questionnaire, which is language-based questionnaire, works. Why it actually does measure behavior, because language is intimately tied to what we do and how we describe what we do. And then you tie that into the affect, what you like and dislike, and it becomes this mix of, language we learn by interacting with society. We learn that growing up, and that interacts with our affect and the habits we form, and it's very system. There's a system, the interaction of the system, you with the environment. So the patterns form in that interaction.
I love how you put that, because this understanding those patterns kind of changes the game a little bit more. I know for myself, it's like I have these habits and things I do, but I understand why I do them, but I know I'm changing in some ways. But I've never heard anyone put it until I talked to you today about the patterns and understanding them, even though you could still use wrong patterns also, but not necessarily knowing how to change your patterns either.
Well, here's the thing that I realized too.
Yeah.
We all form the patterns that work for us. There's no bad habit. There really isn't, because we created the habit for a reason. The habits make life easier. Habits make life more efficient. And it's not unconscious, it's non-conscious processing. It's like how when you walk into a room, your brain scans it, and all the behaviors you need for that room get activated. They're ready to go. So you walk into a kitchen, how you turn on the faucet, pull out a cabinet, open the fridge, all those behaviors are activated so you can do them when you have to do them right away. The environment triggers the arousal of the behavior, so it's ready to go, right? It's an interaction with where you are. If you go to a library, it's like, shh, gotta be quiet, right? You gotta be quiet because you've learned over time that's what the library setting tells you to do. That's what you do. So, the environment triggers behavioral routines in us that we have created to make ourselves better able to navigate and function optimally in that environment. The bad habit comes in when they start saying, this is no longer working for me. I need to change this now. So a bad habit of eating too much. It worked. Not only that, it's not just changing that one. The thing about the health patterns is that it's not just changing that one pattern, that one habit. That habit is
Multiple.
pretzeled like with a bunch of others in a specific form, right? So it's if you can't see the pattern you're in and all the ways that it's holding you in place, you can't change it. It's very, very difficult. Not only that, staying in the behavior after, say, a coaching session, very difficult, because pattern we follow non-consciously is the pattern that best meets our needs. It's easiest for us. It satisfies the most needs for us. But they are specific ones. They have specific forms. The 9 health patterns that I've found have specific forms. They're always the same. You can follow the pattern to different degrees. Something could be a 70% fit. Some could be a 60% fit. But that's still where you spend the most time, is following that pattern. When you try to change it, one dimension of that pattern, the rest of the pattern pulls you back.
I feel that.
Okay, so it's not just one thing.
Yeah.
If you go to a coaching session, well, let's say a different way. A lot of health behavior interventions designed to improve a level of a change of behavior work as long as the coach is there and the behavior is being worked on, focused on.
This empowerment with it, like, yeah, I can do it.
Well, not only that, it's an external influence. It's an external influence, right? That's a new component of your environment that you're exposing yourself to, which is telling you to do this one thing, and so you focus on it. Once that coach is gone, though, and the intervention is over, within 6 months to a year, people go back to what they did before.
I'm looking at like 6 days, but yeah.
Right? They go back to what they did before because the external influence is no longer there.
So how
and they go back to the pattern that worked for them before because they didn't change the pattern. They tried to change one behavior, but didn't understand it's a part of a larger pattern.
So with your assessment allows us to do that and understand that.
It allows them to see it. It allows them to see the pattern. Now they know what they're working with. And my assessment, because it has a lot of information about all the other patterns, you can see what's my best option here for changing. What's the pattern that's closest to me? It's most like mine, but has better health outcomes than mine does. That's the best option because I think it'd be very, very difficult for people to move from, say, pattern number 2, which is called the health contented people. Health contented. Pattern number 2, health contented. They're the opposite of independently healthy. Opposite. No exercise, bad diet. They don't care about health. They don't focus on health. They don't care nothing. They don't care. They're always overweight. They have more mental problems. They have high rates of chronic conditions, but having them switch to independently healthy would be really, really hard. Because they gotta change so many things inside them.
Yeah. Cause some people just don't do anything because it's like you see that and you're like, wait, how do I change this? Do I have to do all this? It's easier not to do anything. Why do I need to change? I'm perfect, But they feel something inside them that they do need to change, but it just becomes almost so overwhelming sometimes.
Yes. Yeah, it is overwhelming because you're dealing with a larger pattern than you realize.
Yeah. Oh my God. I get into.
So I think the first part of my work now is building awareness. It's really making people aware these patterns exist, that they're part of our lives. And they're all over the world. I've done studies in the US, in the UK, in Japan, in China. They're all there.
So it's not just in the United States. That's really good.
Not just in the United States. No, it has to do with the grouping of people in urbanized areas, suburban and urbanized areas. When people come together in large populations where there's more density, the patterns pop up.
Ooh, I feel that because like where I live compared to say LA, the people around here act differently. They do things differently, and they're even more healthier around here as well.
Well, remember, all 9 patterns show up.
Yeah.
So there are some who aren't healthy and some who are. There are some who are driving the medical claims in that area, some who are not.
Yeah.
So it really has to. You have to remember that all the patterns are everywhere.
Okay.
They're everywhere, and they're always around the same size. The independently healthy pattern is about 12% of the population. So here's the thing in terms of, and we're kind of getting close on running out of time here. Yeah, you go to like the senior population. There's a lot of work, I talked about this before, about trying to increase their physical activity because it extends their active life expectancy. They stay fit longer. They have less problems. They can carry on life independently without the need of other people helping them.
On that journey, I want to
be. Right. Okay. But a lot of the interventions to improve physical activity in seniors fail, especially among seniors who are very sedentary. They just don't work at all.
Can you explain more? Like, what do you mean? Like just sitting around doing nothing, or they don't have the urge?
Yes.
They don't have the want to do it?
Yes. And again, my theory, based on research I'm doing right now, it's because of the pattern they follow. Remember, it's a pattern they follow.
Yeah.
The only seniors who will achieve, who has a large number of active seniors, is the independently healthy pattern, that 12%. The next pattern below it is this one I call them adaptive ambiguity. They're like, they don't know what they like and dislike. They're like always in the fence. They answer the question when they neither agree nor disagree. Okay. And a lot of them have that trait. So I call them adaptive ambiguity because it's ambiguous. They don't really tell you what they like. They don't really know. But that group, when they're younger, has high levels of physical activity in competitive sports. More men, and there's more men in it too, who are in this, but when they get older, they drop off. It only happens when they're young. Independently healthy stay active throughout their lives, throughout into their later years. Among that adaptive duty people, there's only like 20% of seniors in that group who are still active, or 60% in the independently healthy ones that are still active. So it's a lot bigger. Beyond those, there's two other ones that have about 5% who are still active, but the rest of the patterns, 5 of them, nothing. 0 people after the age of 60 are engaged in vigorous physical activity. Nobody.
I feel like that's a problem for our global economy and humanity.
Yes, well, think of it. Over the next 25 years, that is going to grow. One of the goals behind trying to increase physical activity in these people, in these older seniors, is to decrease their costs, decrease their need for healthcare, decrease their burden they're going to be on society.
How do you think we can do that? 'Cause we've gotten so far here out of the way where we need to be that no one understands and no one wants to take the time to do anything, it seems like. Is that even though you have all this data, you have these patterns, but the healthcare system and nothing is really changing to really help fight this. Because we know as people are getting older, it's going to be a liability,
Yes.
unfortunately.
Yes. One thing that my assessment can do early on, say at the age of 40, is figure out what pattern they belong to. And if they're not in the independently healthy one, you better start intervening right now. And you better start working and helping them change their behavioral pattern right now. Because by the time they're 60, it's not going to change.
No, it's fun because people think that like this pattern that it's just part of life. Like, oh, I get older, I get weaker. Someone has to take
Yes.
care of me. I saw my parents do it. I saw my grandparents do it. That's just life. But that's
Yes.
not the case.
No, it's not. It's not. No. These patterns explain a lot of things. There's a lot of, why some people exercise and why others don't. And it's interesting too, because the benefits of exercise are always studied among people who exercise, right? And I know from my research that they're always independently healthy. Those are the ones who exercise the most, and they have the best health outcomes. They have the highest health status and lowest rates of any diseases. Okay, they stay functional, they're active the longest in their lives. So is it true then that if you take people another pattern and you give them this, you make them exercise the same way, will they really be healthy like the NFL healthy one is? I don't know, because most of the research about the benefits of exercise happen among independently healthy people because they're the ones who exercise.
I feel like it's one of those things that has to kind of build up within generations of the families over time. Something they have to take on and have kids teach them, and they have kids teach them,
Well, it depends on who their parents are. I mean,
Yeah.
remember that unless the parent knows their own pattern, and the patterns really don't start to form until after the age of 18. And the thing that drives the emergence of the patterns is involvement in decision making for yourself around health. That's the big one. So that when you start getting older and you develop after the age of 18, you're still under your parents, they're still calling the shots for you. You're still under their health insurance coverage. You still go to the doctor they told you to, right?
Yeah.
But as you get older, 20s, 30, up by the age of 30, you're independent. You're making your own calls around. And in that process of increasing control of decision making around health issues, that's what makes the patterns form. Because if the person gets more involved in decision making, they start taking into account what they like and they dislike, work for them what doesn't, and that gets involved in the decision making. They also figure out more through experience what they like and they don't like by learning it, right?
Yeah.
So then as they get older, the number of things they like and dislike grow in size around health issues. Once you get past 3 priorities you're trying to optimize, you can't think about it anymore. It's too complex, right? That's when the patterns form, is after the age, after people's decision making is controlled by 4 or more priorities they're trying to optimize. And things are trying to minimize.
Overwhelming.
I mean, yes, it's all about how complex systems behave.
I feel like just what people need to do is just kind of start with by taking the test. What's the worst it can do for them? So they do nothing with it, but they could learn so much and they could improve their lives so much and understanding the patterns and being able to do better. But some people I know don't want to, but there are those that do want to.
Yes. I'll tell you, my website is thehealthpatterns.com. Very simple, thehealthpatterns.com. You can log on there, create a little website for a little, like a control page, a control panel for yourself. All you need is your name and your address, your name and your email address. Put that in, and then you can buy your own assessment. It's $2.95, so it's not expensive, and it gives you a 20-page, close to 20-page report that gives you details about all your behavioral dimensions, what pattern you fall into, as well as based on your pattern, your predicted health status, the chronic conditions you're going to be suffering from the most that will show up in your life, based on other people with the same pattern, as well as the number of diagnosed diseases you're likely to find as you get older, depending on the pattern you fall into. So it gives you a really good objective look at your own behavioral pattern, and you increase your awareness. Now you know what it is. And you can, in each report, it explains all 10 of the patterns and the dimensions we measure. And you can also then see, where do I want to go? Do I want to switch? If I see that my pattern is going to have high rates of disease later, what can I do anything about it now to minimize that happening? You're dealing with multiple dimensions, and at that point, you need to know more.
That's a huge change, huge lifestyle change.
It is.
And it's a lot of information. You're like, oh my goodness, what do I do?
It is. The thing is, you start slow, because you have to change habits. You have to change what optimizes for you. And now instead of just going with what you felt was best for you,
everything.
You have a guidepost of what do I know is going to be better for me later on, based on the pattern that I'm following. And again, it's a challenge. Getting a mass of people to do this, I'm going to be dead before it happens. I know, but at some point,
your AI will take over and do it for you.
Yeah, at some point, it will start to catch on. If people will realize all the ways these patterns are important to know. It's important for doctors to know the patterns of their patients. It's important for health coaches to know the patterns of their patients, for the people they're coaching. Really important. I think it's important. For parents, I think it's important for them to know their own pattern, because it's going to affect the way they raise their kids.
Ooh, 100%. I love that.
It'll affect, the kids, you don't know their pattern yet. After the age of 18, they still might be in that adaptive ambiguity state because they haven't get involved yet. They don't know what they like and dislike. But over time, by the age of 25, they should show up as having a pattern, at least towards one, But again, at that 25, can a parent really say, here's what I think you tell you we should do now? I don't know.
You're not going to tell me what to do.
Yeah. It's now the person has to start recognizing it.
I love how you said about the parent has a huge influence on when they raise that child, that can have an impact on those patterns as they get older.
Yes. My daughter is independently healthy like I am. And so there is a genetic component to it, but it's not exact, because I have another younger daughter who's not independently healthy. So it's not guaranteed.
Is that genetic? Or there's just something that how their patterns are developed based upon, like you said earlier, things they went through.
Their own preferences. Yes, their own preferences. But my daughter is also a fitness coach. She's a fitness trainer, and she has 2 kids, and her diet with them is like optimal. She watches, she makes their ice cream, so she knows what's in the ice cream. Her kids love zucchini because they were raised eating zucchini. They love avocado because they were raised eating fresh avocados. You go to her house, there's fresh strawberries, there's blueberries. There's no candy.
Love those kind of parents and that kind of
but it's her pattern. She knows she wants to raise her kids in the optimal way, as healthily as possible. So she's very conscious of what she feeds them.
I don't understand why this pattern isn't part of our everyday life, or what they actually teach and show us out in the real world. It always blows my mind, because
they don't know about them.
Helps human beings be better humans.
Yes. I mean, yes. How can they be better humans? It's a tricky prospect, though, because everybody tries to optimize things for themselves.
Highway's the highway. I'm doing it right.
Each of us knows what's best for ourselves. No one can tell you what's best for you. You know what's best for you.
That's true.
And you have to choose it. And if you don't, and your choice is always the one you think is the best. We all do the same thing. Yeah. There's no way around it. You can't. Somebody tells you what to do too much, he's like, screw you.
I just had a coach do that to me recently. And I'm like, no, buddy. This is my life. Maybe your program, but this is my life, and I know it's good for me. So yeah.
Yes. I feel that. Yes. And no, it's not true at all. That's why, even though there are patterns that are healthier than others.
Yeah.
Everyone has a pattern that fits them, that optimizes who they are, that makes life easier for what they want to accomplish. Okay. And that's what's the most important. That's what coaches need to recognize. That when a person comes, especially like a fitness coach, when the fitness coach comes in and they says, you gotta work on your mindset. You gotta work on your mindset, right? But they don't realize that, well, you're trying to get them to have your mindset. That's what you're saying. You're telling them,
Yeah.
you need my mindset.
My way or the highway.
So that's what the fitness coaches say. You have mind, but they don't realize that most fitness coaches are independently healthy. So
But most
they
of them does not necessarily work for
so yes, and they don't recognize it though. They don't see that their pattern is one that they're in. They didn't create it. They didn't magically develop this magic mindset. They just have it. It's not their, when I first discovered I was independently healthy, I realized, oh, that's why I'm more active. That's why I do watch my diet. That's why, I'm always in the garage hitting the 50-pound bag, working out every day and going out, taking a long walk with my dog because that's my pattern. And it's not me. I didn't create it. It's just the one I'm in. Luckily, for me, it's lucky. But for me to switch my pattern would be just as hard as anybody else would be.
I'm on that journey right now. It's been tough from the American diet to understanding that has not been working for me, but figuring out my own diet and changing those patterns of food and how I eat, when I
Yes.
eat. It's been frustrating and hard, but slowly adapting. But I have had to change multiple things.
Yes. Yes. And that's what it is. It's changing multiple things. It's changing, more than one. And so I think from a coaching standpoint, the coach has to realize that everybody has their own way of living, their own ways of optimizing things. You have to work with the pattern they have, and that's going to put them in a specific pattern. You've got to work with that pattern. You got to figure out what's the best outcome for this pattern that the person can be able to achieve and feel happy about what they achieve. Trying to get them to do too much is going to create more frustration, more failure, more dislike, more not following through.
Yep, that happened to me.
So that's what I hope is one of the benefits of a coach knowing the person's pattern they're working with, so that they optimize outcomes for that person in that pattern.
More coaches need to hear this. They need to take
Yes,
that
yes, because
assessment.
really, really, none of the patterns are better than any others are. They're just there. They're like a funnel in a drain having the water go down a drain.
What do you
You
mean
know,
I'm not special?
yeah, it's just there, and you just have to work with what's there. And it's just, and the fact that some have better health outcomes than others, that's a benefit. It is a good benefit. You can't sneeze at it, but that's an artifact of the pattern. It's not what the pattern was designed to do. The pattern is just a pattern.
Some patterns, I know for me, have been more frustrating than the others, but I like how you said one's no better than the other. But it all
Yes,
depends on what kind of outcome you're trying to get for
that's
yourself,
right.
where you're trying
That's
to
right.
get.
That's right. Yep, that's right.
We all
Absolutely.
have different outcomes that we're trying to achieve.
Yes.
Dr. Frederick, it was amazing having you here today.
Thank you very much.
Amazing information. I couldn't stop just
It's
thinking.
fun. It's fun to talk about it.
Yeah, I enjoy this because I'm on that journey of trying to figure out patterns in my life. I'm sure other people are also. And I'm definitely going to take your assessment now and put that down in the show notes so other people can take it. Because these patterns are like, sometimes it's madness trying to figure out how I can change things, but it's not working. But knowing the patterns and trying to change the multiple patterns will actually probably be very valuable to me and the audience as well.
It will help you. I mean, it'll help you understand why it's difficult.
You're just fighting yourself so much. But to know there's something out there like this that may be able to help, that it gives me a little light, more wisdom and understanding and grace for myself.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes. People have to. Yes, I do too. I have grace for myself as well.
No,
I certainly don't do everything perfect,
that's what makes
and we,
you.
we all have to we all have to be kind to ourselves.
We really do. And that's very hard sometimes, especially with those
Yes,
patterns in place.
yes, yes. Well, you just accept what is. You just have to accept. But then acceptance and awareness is the first step of change. It really is. Accepting where you are, but then realizing, but I can change if I want to, and just taking it slow. Moving slowly, not expecting a quick result. And unfortunately, we all want a quick result.
Yes, I was
We all
there
want
for
a
a
quick
while.
result, but it's a process. The patterns form in a person over a few years. When they start taking over and they get more involved in decision making, and then their preferences start to grow, and then all of a sudden they start to become one of these patterns and follow one of these patterns. Their behavior fits the pattern, more and more degrees or whatever, and that happens over time. And as people switch, like the pattern that has kids, there's one pattern called family centered that has a lot of kids, but that only is big in the childbearing years. So when a woman gets in that childbearing age, all of a sudden it grows in size to 13-14% of the population. After the age of 40, when the childbearing years are kind of over, it starts to drop down again. Just so that there are a few patterns that change like that. The size of people who are in them change with the changing circumstances they face. So it's not just changing yourself, it's changing your environment.
Ooh, and I love how you said over the years, because over the years, we've taken so many years to build up these patterns and the way we do things that it's so hard it's so unimaginable and crazy to think that we can change them overnight. We want everything so fast right now. I just went through that and finally learned that little things at a time over a period that can't change 30 years of crazy patterns that I'm like, I want to change now. I have to take my time. This small little,
right.
It's less stressful that way too.
And I'll tell you one last thing. Like I follow a low carb diet. I just don't eat bread. I eat it one day a week on Saturdays after 4 o'clock. From 4 o'clock to midnight, I can have any kind of bread I want, pizzas and all kinds of crap, any carbohydrate basically. But during the week, I don't at all. And so during the week, there's no bread in my house. I don't see any bread, because if I see it, I'm going to want to eat it.
Bread's delicious.
Right? I know it is. I know. I love the whole grain, the kind with nuts in it. It's so good.
I'm a sourdough guy.
With particles in it, but I can't have it in the house. I can only go buy it on Saturday evenings after my workout. I go to the store, buy the bread, and then that night I have it with different stuff. Right. Yeah. I'm not.
Look at me. Don't look at me.
Yes, I mean, most days of the week I eat like 40 grams of carbs is the most I'll eat during the week. But that Saturday evening, it's like 4,000. It's like all kinds of ice cream and pizza and croissants. I go and get a little container of croissants. I'll eat the whole container.
That's why I can't buy it, because I'll eat the whole damn thing.
I know, but one day a week is not bad. In other words, it gets processed and then it leaves you, and then I go back to the low carb diet the rest of the week, and by Tuesday it's all gone.
Now, do you have like any kind of brain fog or weirdness for that whole day? Are you delusional at all?
Well, I do make myself kind of sick.
Yeah.
That night going to bed is like, oh,
my dumb, it feels so good.
Yeah, I can't wait for tomorrow and go back to my regular diet.
It's so good, as they say.
But then by Thursday, I'm like, I can't wait for Saturday. I can't wait for Saturday. So it is your environment.
Yeah.
You have to modify your environment to suit what you want to accomplish, not just your own behavior, but what you have access to.
Very well said. I love that. We all have our own patterns, and we just gotta figure them out, what we're trying to achieve, and adapt.
Yes. Yep. Yes.
Dr. Frederick, I want to thank you so much for coming on here today. It's been a real pleasure having you. We could keep going on forever.
I know.
Before we go,
lots of fun.
Right? Before we go, I'd like to ask you one last question that I ask everyone. What does it mean to you to be a human being?
To be a human being means to bring meaning to life. Really, it means we're the only creature, humans, the only creature that applied language to everything. We constantly name things and define things and based on preferences and likes. And, think of people who've created concerts of music, created poetry, beautiful, that just create meaning. Part of the journey with being a PhD, as a PhD, you're supposed to expand knowledge. That's one of the goals of a PhD, is that you not just learn knowledge, but you grow it, you expand it, you deepen it. My work with the health patterns is my contribution to that. This is one area where I'm expanding knowledge. I'm expanding understanding of what it means to be a human being in a specific dimension, but it's an important one. So to be a human being means to bring meaning to life, make life rich, make life really, really meaningful in whatever way is most important for you. Because as I apply meaning, my own meaning to something, like in this case, say the health patterns, okay, is a dimension of meaning I've created as a part of my work. Others will see that later on and go, wow, that's deep. That has a lot of applications. That has a lot of impact in everyday life. It adds more meaning to what it means to be a human being. So to me, it is all about meaning. Human beings are the meaning creators of the universe. We are. And we create meaning more than every other creature on the planet. So that's what it means to be a human being. It's basically to create meaning
I
and make
love
it
that.
deep and beautiful.
That is so beautifully and well said. We're such multi-dimensional creatures, you know? We're complex. That's why I call this a multiverse podcast, because we're so
Very apt.
multi-dimensional in that one
Very
point.
apt. Very apt
Yeah.
name. Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Frederick. It's been amazing coming on here with you.
Thank you, Joseph Roth, for
I would
inviting
love
me.
to have
Very
you
good. I
back
had a lot of
again.
fun. Me too. Thank you so much.
You have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.